All right, everybody, still setting up here. I'll wait a few minutes and then we'll get going. Oh, let me make sure my volume is down so we don't have the duplicate volume going on, but give me a couple minutes here and I'll go ahead and send out a live stream link to X. There we go. We are live. Going on, but give me a couple minutes here and I'll go ahead and send out a live stream link to X. There we go. We are live. All right. Give me a couple minutes here. I see you guys. We are chatting here. Dan's backcountry is in the house. Hello, hello, everybody. Looking at the Doppler radar here. Not the Doppler radar. We're looking at the satellite imagery. I got the Doppler radar queued up for us here in a minute, but we'll take a look at that in a moment. Let me close out a few windows here. We are chatting here. Dan's backcountry. Ryan's in the house. Ryan's in Kona, Hawaii right now. Hello, hello, everybody. Stay a couple more days and get the volcano out there. Ryan, we're looking at the satellite imagery. I got the Doppler radar queued up for us here in a minute, but we'll take a look at that in a moment. Let me close out a few windows here. Taking a look here at the Langley Doppler radar. You can see the rain is already starting here for some of the Washington coast. Looks like it's raining at Cooley right now. Some portions of Highway 101 just now approaching ocean shores. Maybe a little bit there. You can kind of see that Doppler radar picking up some of the wave action over the open, not the open ocean, but just off the coastline there as well. Langley Doppler radar. You can see the click around here and you can see some of the Washington coast. Looks like it's the Camino Island radar as well. You can see some of this precipitation up across British Columbia, and we can click across some of the BC Doppler radars there as well. That one shows the precipitation across some of the interior portions of British Columbia there fairly well. There's Tofino right there along the coastline also. But yeah, looking forward to the fall weather coming up here. We have a pretty robust low pressure system coming towards the coastline. This should be fun. And you can see this area of clouds right there. That is the jet stream here. This is the energy from some of these tropical systems all the way back across the Western Pacific, rounding this high here and coming underneath this trough that's already established across the Gulf of Alaska. And this is really going to spin up quite a powerful storm. This is going to be some pretty extreme eye candy on the infrared satellite imagery here over the next couple of days. It's going to be really fun to watch this storm spinning off our coastline and bringing multiple rounds of precipitation across the area. The Bear Gulch fire should get a good dousing of rain, but we're looking still at just, maybe a couple tenths of an inch, maybe a little bit more for some of the Labor Mountain fire, the Wildcat fire, but we'll see how that goes. Infrared satellite imagery over the next couple of days. It's going to be really fun to watch this storm spinning off. Oh, I got an echo? Shoot. What's my echo? The Bear Gulch fire should get a good dousing of rain, but we're looking still at just, maybe let me see if I'm doing. Oh, I know what it is. There we go. That fixed it. Sorry about that. Oh, I did it again. I left that on there. It should be gone now. See if it's still there. Is it gone? More sound on in the background. I'm going to close all these. Okay, much better. Okay. I left the volume on the actual live stream I brought up, so you're hearing me twice. Okay, so I probably lost 100 people there in the chat. Sorry for that. But yeah, let's start over again here. So got a pretty interesting storm coming up here. Fall weather is upon us. Looking forward to it personally here. I like the summertime, but I do like sleeping at night a little bit more comfortably. I like when it cools off a little bit, and you can really see our next storm already out here across the open ocean. This is the initial stages of this jet stream moving across Pacific Ocean. We got some of this subtropical and tropical moisture kind of rounding this ridge out over the Pacific. It's going to dive underneath this trough, and it's really going to spin up quite a dynamic system right off our coastal areas. It's going to look very beautiful on the satellite imagery, and it's going to be with us for a few days as it spins off our coastline. Multiple rounds of precipitation, better amounts, of course, west of the Cascades, but Hopefully we can get some for the Wildcat and the Labor Mountain fire. I mean, the Labor Mountain fire is up over 30,000 acres. The Wildcat fire continues to burn out there. I know it's threatening some structures there, north of I-90 and south of I-90 near 410 and Highway 97. But this round should really help put the Bear Gulch fire down. I believe there's still going to be some smoldering spots out there, but for the most part, I think the Bear Gulch fire is really going to get suppressed. I just started the live stream here. My wife and daughter do come in at 8:30, so I do have to wrap up the chat or the live stream here by about 8:30 or so. But it gives us plenty of time. It gives us, over 70 minutes. And we can do some Q&A here and take a look at a few things. I'll show you some things I'm working on too as well. I've been looking at the quasi-biennial oscillation, and there's some very interesting stuff that goes on with that. And mainly because this signal is fairly predictable is why I'm paying a little bit more attention to it now. And I've been lining up things with the ENSO conditions, El Nino and La Nina, and the quasi-biennial oscillation. And I plugged those into my Seattle numbers. So you can kind of see how this goes for about 24, 26 months or so. You get these westerlies and easterlies, equatorial winds here that affect how strong the stratospheric polar vortex is, and a few other things. And I'll explain that more when I actually do the video, but it's a very predictable phenomena. As you can see, it transitions about every 26 months between easterlies and westerlies here. And so I've plugged that into the CTAC numbers, and I've done a La Nina QBO positive, negative, neutral, and El Nino. And you can see I'm getting some interesting numbers out there. And I'm going to go over this in a bit more detail. And we'll talk a little bit more about the quasi-biennial oscillation and what it is and what exactly it means and how it plays with the world circulations and all kinds of good stuff here. But there is some pretty interesting signals here, including where we're probably headed into a La Nina with QBO negative. This is likely where we're going for this year. And you can see those tend to bring the windiest Novembers here to the Pacific Northwest, or at least CTAC. I'm going to plug in some other numbers here as well, but it's a pretty strong signal. I mean, the next nearest is almost 3 miles per hour off and neutral QBO negative. So you can see there is a pretty windy signal showing up there in November. There's also a couple other interesting things as well. October's, don't tend to be very windy here, but it's kind of in line with the other numbers there. Let's see, Seattle snow. The snow is actually a pretty interesting signal as well. It doesn't show much in the La Nina QBO negative as far as February is concerned. You can see some of the other years have more during February, but it does show quite a bit. It's actually the snowiest December happens in La Nina QBO negative from 1980 to 2025. So that's the last 45 years or so. And you can kind of see January also right up there. And actually, strangely enough, El Nino QBO negative actually has one of these higher values also. But I'll go over that more here over the next couple of weeks as I'm working on this project right now. But we're going to pay attention to some other stuff because I got big pattern change coming. And again, you can see this jet stream kind of rounding the trough. It's going to really set up a big storm right off our coastline. Now, okay, let's take a look at what's going on here. Yeah, the Bear Gulch fire. Hopefully we can really put this thing to almost to rest here over the next week or so. And yeah, this is going to usher in a pretty cold air mass when this storm does roll in. I'll show you some of that here. Actually, I can show you some of that right here. This is 850 millibars. We're looking at the temperature anomaly. And as we go, you'll see the storm system develop right there. You notice it spin up there. That's kind of the energy we're looking at there on the infrared satellite image. You can see that low spin up right off our coastline there. And you can kind of see this chillier air mass aloft being brought into the region. That low is going to be with us all the way on and through probably Thursday or so. And who knows what's going to happen after that. But we've got some active weather, no doubt, coming up this week. Also on the infrared satellite imagery, you can kind of see this area out here. That's what we were looking at here on the infrared satellite imagery. Then you can kind of see that trough really dig out and approach the coastal areas. Yeah, it's hard to say. I mean, as far as windstorms go for the Pacific Northwest, they tend to be pretty consistent. We get windstorms every year, and you have to put windstorms into quotations sometimes because what some people consider windstorms, not so much to others, but here in the land of tall trees, it doesn't take that strong of winds to really cause some serious problems, especially early in the season. And so when you go through November, there's still leaves on trees. Trees can be untested. And when we go through a year of drought, some trees may be dying, and there's a lot of factors that go into play. A lot of times in these lesser windstorms where you're gusting between 45 and maybe 50 miles per hour, tree damage usually comes from trees that have been rotting previously. But once you get up over 55 miles per hour, you start uprooting trees and knocking trees down that might otherwise be healthy. So once you start to scale up the windstorm strength just a little bit across the region, it can become a big deal rather quickly. And it's been a while since we've had one of those generational windstorms, and we tend to get them, or we used to get them. Sometimes we'd get them every few years. Sometimes they would happen every 10 to 15 years. And we haven't really had a big signature windstorm since December of 2006. We've come close, and we've had some pretty good windstorms. We've actually had some, a few times in the past few years, we've been up over 50 for SeaTac, but still not the big signature windstorm that you've heard about in the past. Is this September warmer than normal again? Well, we can look at a little bit of that. Let's look at the anomaly here. Let's go ahead and look at that. So we'll go to Western USA, and we're going to go to average. We'll go to the current month here, and we'll take a look. And yeah, from September 1st, we have definitely been above normal here across the region. You see, Eastern Washington, kind of the hot spot there. I mean, my goodness, look at that, between 6 to 8, some areas between 8 and 10 degrees above normal for the month of September. And really the only place below normal is kind of the central Oregon Cascades, it looks like, and maybe some very isolated locations down there in Idaho. But yeah, very warm September actually for much of the West Coast. I know I have California viewers in here as well. There's some areas that have been below normal here, but again, central Northern California looks like it's been above normal, and Oregon, Washington kind of taking the cake here. Idaho Panhandle, very warm. Northwest Montana as well. Let me know if that lines up with what you guys are feeling out there, because I know you guys know how it goes. Sometimes what you're feeling or what you think that you've seen might not actually line up with the number. Sometimes it depends on a lot of different factors. Thunderstorm possible. Yeah, Rich Roberts, good question. Thunderstorm forecast. Thunderstorms are possible for Tuesday and Wednesday. It is definitely a possibility. And if we take a look here, so this North American model is running as we speak. How far out is the 0Z model going right now? It's about hour 39. But as this system moves through on Monday, thunderstorms out here. You see, as we're scrolling through the day, Monday, Eastern Oregon, some of Idaho, this is most likely to be where the most active thunderstorms are on the day, Monday. Not expecting a lot of lightning with this activity, at least initially, but you see this frontal system out here as we go through the day, Tuesday. And once this starts to push some cooler air aloft inland towards the coast and some of the interior areas, we have that chance for Wednesday and maybe even Thursday as well, because the upper level low is going to be right across the Pacific Northwest. So we'll watch this run as we go through the video here tonight as well. And also, if I ran the 0Z, let's take a look at this. It does. Okay, so that shows that you can kind of see what's going on here close to the upper level low as you go through the day on Tuesday. These helicity updrafts kind of show these rotating showers near that upper level low. So if this can bring some of that cold air back across the region, you can get some interesting stuff. You can get lightning, you can get maybe a rotating wall cloud, maybe a funnel cloud, maybe a water spout here. Who knows? It does happen occasionally in the Pacific Northwest, but you'll also see, if I scroll back through on the day on Monday, you see some of this helicity updraft action showing here for Eastern Oregon and maybe on into portions of Idaho. But then as we go on in through Wednesday, I'm going to be curious to see if it shows any of this activity getting back across Western Washington. Another way, of course, of looking at that is the composite reflectivity. And let's back that up and we'll take a look at where we are right about 7. There's about 8 o'clock right there. So you can compare that versus the Doppler radar. Click on the Langley Doppler radar here, and it looks like it's lining up pretty well so far. There we go at that light rain now approaching the North Washington coast, and that's getting closer to the central Washington coast as well. And again, this isn't really picking up a lot of precipitation coming across Vancouver Island. It's been raining for much of the day and moderate and heavy at times for some areas. Yeah, water spouts on the coast. That's one of my favorite things to go out there and hunt for sure. Rich Roberts picked up a Tempest weather station. Yeah, those are fun. Those weather stations are really cool. It builds its own forecast for you. And so I like watching weather stations. I mean, I remember when I was a little kid, I would have my manual rain gauge outside and my mercury thermometer and things like that. So I'm kind of jealous. I wish that we had something like these weather stations when I was a younger kid, because man, I used to just grab the paper every day and I'd write down every single day and all the stats for the weather across the country and really focus on Seattle. And I'd keep all the weather records on a calendar I had and whatnot. So I would have loved seeing something that stored all the data for you as well. So yeah, these weather stations are really cool. Glad to see kids nowadays having access to stuff like that. Yeah, I've got several weathers, including handheld or not, right? I've got a Tempest handheld. I've got a Kestrel handheld. I've got 2 Tempests in the backyard. I've got a ambient, and I actually have the weather station that's mobile. That's a cell powered one, but it got beat up pretty bad. It fell over as I tried to leave it in a remote area on the coast, measuring big winds, and it fell over and got damaged. So I've been having a hard time with that. But I've got a very expensive weather station on my house as well. It's on like a 32-foot pole with guy wires and stuff. So I have probably one of the best readings in the region, and it lines up with SeaTac winds just off to my west by a couple miles as well. Yeah, there'll be thunderstorms. Right now, it's going to be hard to pinpoint down exactly where, but a lot of western Washington, some of western Oregon, southwest BC has thunderstorm potential. And like I mentioned, tomorrow, those thunderstorms are going to be across eastern Oregon and portions of Idaho. One reason why I like this Radar Omega as well, because you can kind of see the advisories. You can see these wind advisories out for some of southern Oregon as we speak, right there across, some of the Siskiyous, I-5 corridors, a wind advisory, and you can click on this for more information. Really cool stuff. So I do like using this program, and it's very customizable. And if I were to zoom in, for example, on ocean shores, I mean, you can see the detail on the map and whatnot, and then you can kind of see the precipitation moving towards the coastline. You can see where some of these showers, you can see exactly where the Doppler radar is here as well. And you can kind of move up towards Tohola, and there's Mo Clips and Sunset Beach, and yeah, all kinds of good stuff. You can really zoom in all the way down to the street level here. So I do enjoy this program. But anyway, let's get back to what the North American model was showing. And you can see, so this is where we are right about now. It's lined up pretty good. I mean, it looks like it's a little bit closer to the coast on the Doppler radar, but you take what you can get. And then you see that frontal system kind of brings some of that light rain maybe overnight to tomorrow morning across Seattle. And that moderate rain kind of hanging up right there across western Oregon, Washington. It's kind of interesting there. And again, this is where the thunderstorms are going to be tomorrow. You can see some of these stronger echoes showing up for Idaho and eastern Oregon, for those of you wondering about the thunderstorms. And then as we scroll off in towards Tuesday afternoon, you see some of these segments back here. So yeah, we're going to be watching out for this upper level low as it gets closer as we go through the day, Wednesday especially. So that's out to 44 hours now. This will eventually get out to 60 hours here in a bit. Yeah, that 1921 Olympic blowdown event, man, what I wouldn't give to witness that. The only problem is that if a storm like that comes, it's probably going to sucker me out to the coast, and I'm probably going to get stuck out there for 4 days or something ridiculous. I do have an electric chainsaw that I will bring in my car, or that I do bring in my car, but I don't know if that would save me, because what a storm. We've had some really epic, huge windstorms hit the region. You guys have known about the probably 1962 Columbus Day storm. We had a huge storm in 1981, 1983, 1993, 95, 2006. We've had huge windstorms here, and we're just kind of waiting to see when the next signature one is coming. It'll come eventually, but there's no telling when that might happen. They used to occur on an average about every 10 to 15 years, and we're closing in on 20 years now since a signature windstorm here across the area. We've had some strong storms, though, don't get me wrong, but not quite that level of just being a widespread damaging windstorm. But yeah, I mean, the odds of something like that, the 1921 blowdown or the Columbus Day storm or something just absolutely ridiculous hitting, is always low, but every single year there's the potential for it to happen. It's too bad your Tempest capped out after 2 years. Yeah, the Davis weather stations are good as well. They're just quite expensive. I do have a Davis on my house right now. Oh, I see some. Yeah, I was echoing at the beginning, you guys. So hopefully you guys can scroll ahead a little bit in the video. I know I probably lost a lot of viewers from that, and I'm probably not going to get near as many viewers if I would have started the. I thought I had the volume shut down, but then I saw I had a YouTube page open of the live stream, so my bad. I see Ryan checking out. Is Ryan taking the boat back from Hawaii? I know Ryan sailed out to the Hawaiian Islands from the west coast of North America. That's pretty hardcore. That's a pretty fun trip, it sounds like. Yeah, Nick B, it's been 20 years since that storm. The 1962 event would be bigger, for sure. It was more of a widespread storm. I mean, it struck from Northern California all the way up, and some of the biggest wind speeds to ever be recorded here in the Pacific Northwest happened during the Columbus storm. The Columbus Day storm, there's some estimates that could be 1 in a 500, 1,000 more event. Just an absolute unicorn of a storm, the Columbus Day storm. Just a freak show. I mean, you're talking about a deep trough set up over the Gulf of Alaska with, typhoon remnants just perfectly coming in and just diving very close to the coastline. Just a recipe for disaster, which it was. The 1921 was a little bit of a different type of storm. It made landfall right on the Olympic Peninsula, but just a very power-packed storm. And Wolf Reed had talked about that storm. I'm having trouble getting back to his website at times, but he talks about that storm, just a huge blowdown of trees along the Olympic Forest. So it was probably stronger actually locally for some areas of the Olympic Peninsula versus the Columbus Day storm, but not the widespread monster that Columbus Day storm was. Yeah, I've got people personally messaging me on my Discord channel and stuff that there was an echo. Sorry about that. I will try not to ever let that happen again. So let's see. Yeah, I mean, there's always that love-hate relationship between rooting for a huge windstorm and then knowing what it would do to the area. So there's always that battle that goes in my mind, because my natural default is to see the most destructive, craziest weather event possible. And I usually don't think twice about it, but then I have to remember how that affects people, because I go out and I chase tornadoes and stuff like that. And I've seen some absolutely devastating stuff. Just last year, I was helping people. We were the first on site with a house that was hit by a tornado, and we got there like probably a minute before the son got there, and it was his mother's house, his 90-something-year-old mother, and I was trying to clear debris to the driveway, and he was absolutely freaking out. And so, I'm kind of numb to that stuff a little bit, and I've been around it a lot, so sometimes I don't always think about that, because if we had a Columbus Day storm around now, there would probably be hundreds of people killed by the storm. I mean, even back in the day in the 60s, there was, I think, 57 people killed by that storm, with a lot less people out here. And frankly, we've, built into the suburbs a lot and to the urban areas quite a bit, where trees have been thinned out, and there's lots of stands of trees that are isolated by themselves. And probably a lot of those trees are coming down, if I had to bet. Just with a lot more people out there, I think that the death toll would probably be higher if a Columbus Day storm hit now, definitely, than when it hit back in the 1960s. But you can see at the end of this run here, you see all this shower activity here as we start to go through Wednesday morning. This activity here, these might be rotating. That could bring some interesting weather. I mean, it's not like you'd be worried about threats to property too much. These water spouts and weak and brief tornadoes usually don't cause much damage, and if they did, it would be very isolated. So this is just kind of a weather weenies thing going on. But goes without saying, we have a few nice rounds of rainfall coming, and we kind of badly need this. This is as we go through the day, Monday, a little bit of a break there. We go through Tuesday, and then we bring in another frontal system as we go through Tuesday afternoon, Tuesday night, and then Wednesday is going to be those showery precipitation, thunderstorm potential as we go on into Wednesday. And this upper level low is going to be around for Thursday also. So fun stuff coming up here. Definite big pattern change incoming. And that reminds me, I want to do this really quick here. Let's go to the GFS. I want to see what it's showing on the latest as far as 24-hour temperature change. There we go. So as we go through to, yeah, you can see that. I mean, let's zoom in here a little bit. We'll go to Northwest. And you can see Seattle. I mean, look at some of these temperature drops across the Oregon Cascades. If you know anybody out camping or out across the backcountry there or lives off into the Oregon Cascades, I mean, you're talking about some of these areas are dropping towards 30-degree difference between a 24-hour difference here across the area. So watch out for that. Big changes coming tomorrow. You're definitely going to feel that. I used to be a certified spotter in the Midwest. Seen some tornadoes and funnel clouds. Yeah, fun stuff. Western Washington weather in the house. Are you not a moderator? There we go. Now you're a moderator. Western Washington weather. Why were you not a moderator on here? Yeah, I'm going to try to do live streams more often for sure. Yeah, that's another good point. Ghost of Jules Verne mentions June 2021. That was, during my lifetime, it's one of the most rare weather events to ever strike the Pacific Northwest. Just an extremely anomalous situation during late June with the ridge setting up perfectly. I mean, my goodness, that was just incredible. I was trying all kinds of stuff. I was like trying to put plywood around the outside of my house so I could block some of the sun's rays. It was getting so hot in my house. It was just absolutely ridiculous. And I'm near the Puget Sound. My high temperature was like 103 degrees or something. And some areas inland, it was much hotter, as you guys know. Oh, is it? Okay, there's Mark. I'm adding Mark as a moderator here also. Oh, where was Ryan? Okay, I want to add Ryan here as well. Where's Ryan? Where'd Ryan go? Yeah, so it must have kicked everybody off as a moderator when I went through the hack. If anybody else is a moderator, let me know. Yeah, everybody was kicked off there. Wow, okay. Yeah, I was back in towards Covington on that day, like right afternoon, and the road seemed like it was melting. You could hear like the blacktop like sticking to the wheels, the cars and stuff. That was pretty crazy. But yeah, the AC in our house wasn't cooling it down as well. But as far as wind, yeah, let's take a look at that. The wind. Let's stick to what we're doing for now, and let's see here. We'll do northwest. We'll take a look at surface wind. We'll go 80-meter wind speed, and let's back this up. We should have the full run in here yet, and I believe we do. Yes, we do. Okay, so let's start here. So you can see it gets a little blustery this evening. Like you can see the northwest interior. I mean, this starts what? It might be blowing a little bit. Is Jonathan Pulley in the house? Is it starting to blow a little bit on Whidbey Island right now? In fact, let's zoom in a little bit more. It's like it's getting a little blustery out there, but it's not too bad. But you can see it does pick up on the interior here as we go through the overnight. And so the coastal area is a little blustery. Not too bad with that first one. Then we got another one coming on Tuesday. This is the stronger storm, but again, it's not very progressive. So the best gradients are going to keep the strongest winds off the coastline. But I mean, these are really strong winds. If you're know anybody out in a boat or anything like that, hopefully, I'm sure they're aware. But I mean, those are really strong winds. But you can see they mainly stay out over the open waters. They do pick up though pretty good. What is the timing of that? That is tomorrow. That is Tuesday afternoon. Tuesday evening. Watch out across San Juan's. You can see even out towards Sequim there, right across the Strait of Juan de Fuca towards Whidbey Island. We really ramp those winds up a bit here across the northwest interior. It will get blustery a little bit across some of the Puget Sound, the Willamette Valley. You can see some gusty winds coming through. And, you know, it's always a little bit, got to be careful in the early part of the year when you get some of these winds blowing through here. Like if you gust to 37, see, yeah, I mean, that, if the NAM is right there, this is going to be a problem. That would actually be a problem here. These winds are gusting up over 50, 55 miles per hour. In Bellingham, 45, 41 for Everett, 37. This could actually cause some power outages here with all the leaves on trees and stuff. And some of the coastal areas do gust up over 50 miles per hour as well. So yeah, pay attention on Tuesday. We'll go over this again tomorrow morning. We'll see if there's something to that. And in fact, the HRRR is only going to go out that far. So the North American model is there. Let's take a look at the European, and we will, let's do this. We're going to go to max wind gust here. Let's see, what do we get? So Tuesday night, not near as bad, but still pretty darn right windy here across maybe Victoria, Strait of Georgia. And that's some pretty strong wind. Cape Disappointment. I mean, it's not bad. And you're getting some gusts up towards 50 for the Oregon coast. And again, once you start it's not, okay, I spoke too soon. Check that. What is that? That's 43 for Seattle. I'm gonna have to watch that one a little bit closer then. That would be a problem. 43 in Seattle this time of year would be a problem. So yeah, so we'll watch that one there. That's on the day Wednesday. I don't know if that's going to be convectively induced or what. Let me go ahead and look at 100-meter wind speed at that point on Wednesday. So what is going on here? It just looks like the proximity of the low is there, and maybe pressure rise is going on at that time. But yeah, we'll have to watch that because there could be some isolated power outages. If you start hitting up towards 40 miles per hour at this time of year, it could be an issue. Yeah, Western Washington weather, 18Z Euro. Yep, it definitely did have it there for sure. Good point. Not too windy on Whidbey right now. Okay, that's good to know. Southern Oregon. Looks like we're probably headed towards La Nina. But there's also some underlying questions with just how La Nina has been acting. Is it going to be like a full-fledged La Nina? Are we going to get towards moderate? What kind of impacts are we going to have? I'm not quite sold on that just yet, but I'm working on a video right now. It'll go over more of some predictions, what I think is going to happen this winter. So Western Washington Weather Chasers is in the house, adding as a moderator. Everybody got kicked off as a moderator, Ben, in case you didn't know, so I just added you back. With that hack or whatever, it reset the whole thing. Yeah, La Nina definitely favored coming up here. And QBO negative. If you guys are just joining now, this is what I'm working on. One of the interesting signals I had. So we're headed towards La Nina and QBO negative. That's the windiest November versus any other combination. Neutral, El Nino, La Nina, QBO positive. Look at that, 47 right there. And pretty windy Decembers as well. But look at that, El Nino with QBO positive. You average about a 50 mile per hour gust in the month of December, which is pretty intense. And yeah, so there's some interesting signals in there. What everybody wants to know about, actually, let's go to, I did it in both since 1980 and 1950 here as well. And even since 1950, you can see La Nina, QBO negative, has been the windiest November combination there. And it's no fluke there. El Nino, QBO positive. Look at that, 49 miles per hour. Also the windiest Januaries since 1950 as well. So yeah, I'm going through all kinds of interesting stuff like this. The QBO is something that's fairly easy to predict. So these could have some meaning. And the Seattle snow since 1980. Snowiest Decembers, and this is where we are right now. Snowiest Januaries, pretty close to it. La Nina, QBO negative. So interesting signal there. If you want November snow, check it out. Neutral, QBO positive. Interesting signals here. I haven't fully digested this stuff. I just now put the numbers in and started teasing this out. So it should be fun and interesting to watch. And if you go back to 1950, the snowiest month, look at that. QBO negative 6.4, but look at El Nino QBO negative 7 inches average in January, which is ridiculous. But this is probably skewed by some huge snowstorms we had back in the 60s there. So I'll go over some of that in the video upcoming as well. But yeah, lots of new data that I've been putting in here. Let's back out a little bit here. Also, we're getting some waves as well. Let me catch up on chat, though, for a minute. 0Z her. Okay, somebody's talking about the her here, so let me go on that and take a look here as well. We'll go to the high resolution rapid refresh, wind gust swath, make sure we're on 0Z. So there's a little bit of gusty winds there for the Northwest Oregon coast, maybe Long Beach and Washington, gusting in the upper 40s. Look, it shows a Bellingham 50-mile-per-hour gust tomorrow morning. When did that 33 go for Seattle? Shows that tomorrow morning as well. Kind of blustery out there, not bad. Some gusty winds east of the mountains there as well. Look at that coming up the Columbia Basin, 40+ mile-per-hour gusts, another question. Now, this is the frontal system I'm concerned about there. You can see it does bring the stronger winds towards the coastline. A lot of the strongest winds are going to stay off the coast, but you can see, I mean, look at Astoria. Are you gusting? Almost gusting towards 60 miles per hour for some of the coast. That might get me up to the coast there. If that were to happen on Tuesday, that might make me have a trip out to the coast. And there's some very strong winds across the Northwest Interior showing up also. Again, maybe a problem early in the season. Look at Olympia, 47, up and down the I-5 corridor. Some of the Willamette Valley getting windy as well. So definitely something for me to be researching here tomorrow. Waves, wave action. There, I see Mark talking about that also. Let's go. So maximum individual wave height. This is the 12Z European, and you can clearly see the wave generation area here with our mid-latitude cyclone. It's a pretty beastie storm out there, and look at those waves it's going to be generating. So that's going to really be ramping up as we go through day Tuesday. Overnight, man, you wouldn't want to be out there in a boat. Overnight, Tuesday night into Wednesday morning, look at those come right into the coast. So if you missed the waves, I mean, if you've been jonesing for some waves on the coastal areas of Vancouver Island, Washington, Oregon, Wednesday is going to be the day for that. So it might be fun to go out there and chase some of those storms as well, because you double it up. You chase the waves and you chase the rotating segments moving towards the coastline there as well. Maybe get a water spout and some big waves. Some crazy stuff out there. Get your fall weather fix if you are a storm chaser here across the Pacific Northwest. So yeah, fun stuff there. Look at that wave generation. Nice storm. And also, I want to look at this. I keep forgetting. I'm going to keep putting this off, but I'm going to go to this, and we're going to go to Pacific Northwest, and we are going to look at, what am I doing here? Here we go. There we go. Northwest, and we're going to go to upper air moisture, simulated infrared satellite imagery. Look at that thing spinning up off our coast there. That is going to be beautiful in the satellite imagery as we go through. It's really going to be quite a strong storm as it's out there on Tuesday. In fact, let me back up a little bit more. We're going to go to back to Oceanic. We'll go back to the Gulf of Alaska here so you can kind of see that storm developing. Starts spinning up in earnest there as we go through Monday night into Tuesday morning, and that thing is going to wrap up and look like a cinnamon roll off the coast of Vancouver Island on the day Wednesday, and that'll be with us all the day on Thursday also, and then we'll see what's going to happen after that. Saturday, yeah, I got tickets to the Mariners game on Saturday, so I will be at game 1. So that'll be fun. I haven't been paying attention yet, so I'm trying to do one thing at a time, but it does show, yeah, you can kind of see the shortwave moving down through BC there. That could keep things unsettled for sure. Yeah, drones out over the ocean can make for some quite nice scenery for sure. If I don't lose some shingles, yeah, I want to. That's the thing. I'm in a very wind-prone area, so when I root for wind, I hear my roof just absolutely shimmering and the house shaking when the wind is blowing. So I'm like, I wonder what kind of damage that is causing to my roof. But I want it. I want the big wind. Brian Rock Rail fan, hello, welcome. Skywarn Chaser out of Texas, very nice. Aqua Chunk, oh yeah. Oh yeah, I gotta add you as an admin, a moderator here. Yeah, we talked Aquachunk and I talked about my hacking via email back and forth. He saw me get access to my email like 3 different times and then get kicked off and no access to my email. And I was trying to check back in there, and it was kind of funny. Yeah, so I was going to look at that too as well. Let's see. Here's the trend, 6-hour minimum min temperature. You see our overnight lows getting lower and lower as we go on in towards the early portion of November there. And let's do this. Let's go to Mount Baker. So yeah, check it out. You can see as we go through October, the snow starts to fly in the Cascades, especially the North Cascades. I mean, I've been in the North Cascades in late August and it's snowed a little bit. So it can get pretty crazy pretty quick in the North Cascades. But you can see as you get into November, you're starting to bring the snow down into not the lower elevations, but across some of the higher elevations. Yeah, I do have a chainsaw. It's a battery-powered chainsaw, and I try to remember to bring it chasing with me. I haven't had to use it yet, but I've come close a couple times. Oh yeah, I was going to talk about that too. The water's off the coast. Where do I have it here? So this is the actual ocean temperatures here as of what? Friday afternoon. Actual temperatures. Sea surface temperature anomaly. And now remember this, a lot of this time when you've got these warmer than normal temperatures, this is more of an indicator of what has been happening. So generally when you get warmer than normal, you've had high pressure around and the ocean hasn't been stirred up too much. But if I bounce out to the Gulf of Alaska view, you'll see this cooler water starting to emerge across the Gulf of Alaska. That's because we've had these low pressure systems really churning up the water, and you bring cold fronts down, you bring cooler water aloft and eventually mixes down, and you eventually moderate some of these temperatures here. So if we bring this storm towards the coastline, it's probably going to, stir up the ocean quite a bit. You'll get some upwelling from below and you'll start to reduce some of this because a lot of this is fairly surface based. It's in the top few meters, if you've been out swimming in a lake and whatnot, you know how the top levels of the water get warmer. And if you dive down a bit, it gets a bit cooler. So this is not like it's super deep water out there, but it is pretty substantially above normal out there. Another thing this may do is it may, enhance the storm a little bit. It may give it a better convective available potential energy. But right along the coastline, you actually see that some of the water is actually cooler than normal right along the coastline here also. So we'll see how that goes. Is that going to get pushed up? Is this warmer water than normal going to get pushed towards the coastline as the storm moves in? I'm not sure exactly how that works, but a lot of times this is an indicator of what has been going on above. So that is why this cooler than normal water has been showing up in the Gulf of Alaska. This is because these storms have been churning through this area. It's always a good practice to look at what the actual sea surface temperatures are versus just the anomaly all the time as well. And you can see how the cold water current kind of brings that cooler water all the way down the California coastline as well. And then the current kind of comes back around and moves towards Hawaii. And then the temperatures pick up once you get past just off to the west of Hawaii there as well. Whistler extended. Oh yeah, might as well. Let's take a look. Yeah, so you can kind of see what's going on. This is in centimeters here, but yeah, you can see what's going on here as you're starting to get into November. It's coming. November's coming here, and you can do the same thing here with. Doesn't like that. Doesn't want to do Seattle here. Let's see if it does it like this. Look at this. You can even start to get off in some fantasy snow here if you want. If you really start to get desperate, you can always go to the European extended forecast and you can see, look at this one ensemble member. What is that? Number 72 actually has what? A couple inches of snow for SeaTac. But this is a more reliable thing here. As you can see, as you go on in towards the mid portion of November, we start to get quite rainy here. There's at one portion in later November, SeaTac averages like about 0.28 inches a day. So that's the average precipitation once you get in November. So if you're missing the rain, just wait a little while. It's coming. But it's always fun to watch these first frontal systems roll into the area. Does this week spell the end of the Bear Gulch fire? It'll probably be smoldering and stuff, I think. But I think the days of it producing big plumes of smoke are probably done after this week, if I had to bet. I mean, let's see. Let's go to someplace high up on the... And then if it's not, it'll be, it'll be wetted down pretty good by the time we get towards November. But we're probably going to be, I think we're going to put a pretty good hurting on that fire coming up. But yeah, it's been uptrending a little bit, looks like, on some of the coastal. I mean, look at that wind as we go through Tuesday afternoon and evening. Man, somebody, Ben or Jonathan, take a ferry ride up there and get some footage of the waves crashing and whatnot. Those are some pretty strong winds. I don't know what the waves are forecast to be right now, but that would probably be kicking up some good action. You can see, look at Hoquiam, gust 50 miles per hour as you go through Tuesday afternoon and evening. 52 at Quileute. You probably get some pretty good winds at Cape D or right out there in Astoria, Seaside. Chris Bird, thanks for the generosity. Want to keep the lights on. Looking forward to the fall storm season. Indeed. Yeah, I can't wait. I got stuff ready to go. I got my anemometer and whatnot. Mount on top of the car, my digital display, and I got my probes ready. If we get the big regional or once in a generation windstorm coming, I will be out on the coast and I will be placing probes out there to try to kind of give a very detailed look at a mid-latitude cyclone. What I'd like is for a 972 millibar low to make landfall in the southwest Washington coast here. And I'd like to place probes 1 minute readings, and I'd like to get a really good look at it here as it tracks across western Washington. Or maybe a classic windstorm where you bring a 970 millibar low up the coast that just absolutely rakes Oregon up into Washington. And yeah, I'd like to really sample one of those storms with my probes. Yeah, Matt is a Husky, so he will try to get some video at the UW. That would be sweet. Yeah, I don't know. Is there old growth that is being burned in the Bear Gulch? I can't remember if that was the case or not, because it's pretty, the Olympic Mountains don't burn that often. And this fire is just absolutely huge. It's the biggest fire in 70 plus years on the Olympic Peninsula. And I think the only reason the one back in the early 1900s was so big is because we didn't have, we don't have, air support, and we were not good at putting out fires back then and whatnot. So I don't know. Was that old growth burning out there? Yes, he says yes. Yeah, some of Bear Gulch hasn't been burned in the period of record. That is not good. Drew in the house, welcome. 300 people watching, not bad. Yeah, I see that the analogs. I haven't looked at the analogs too much yet for this winter. It's still September, so I like to wait a little bit until I get more into October. But I had been showing. I'll close that one out. If you guys are just joining, I'm working on a QBO, quasi-biennial oscillation, and La Nina has some very interesting signals. It's a very predictable phenomena. So you can kind of see how this pattern between westerlies and easterlies kind of varies between every 26 months. So I've plugged that into my data here into the CTAC number. So I've got some interesting signals there, and I'm trying to learn how to best communicate that in my next video. I'm going to talk about that a bit as well. But as you can see, we're moving into this easterly phase here, which is known as negative. So this is what's possibly coming up here, La Nina QBO negative. And for the most part, you can actually see it's actually the coolest Octobers as well. I mean, so maybe we're headed towards a cooler than normal October. The dice are kind of weighed that way. November, it's on the chillier side of things as well. Only neutral QBO positive is a little bit cooler there. And December is actually pretty chilly Decembers as well. So maybe, and You know, something I've been noticing in my data is we have not had a snowy January in some time here for a lot of the Pacific Northwest, like especially for SeaTac. My numbers have not shown much in the way of Januaries. It's happened in February, and we had a few snows in December in the past few years, but we typically will get a big snowstorm during the month of January, and maybe this will be the year. Who knows? I mean, but we'll see how that goes. But yeah, if you're just joining, we got big waves coming in here. We have thunderstorm potential over the next couple of days. We got multiple rounds of precipitation. In fact, if I back this up, we'll take a look one more time at this. This one is completed. And this is composite reflectivity. And you can see we've got this first frontal system. This is rolling through tonight and through tomorrow. It does bring some rain even to eastern Washington. Thunderstorms out there, eastern Oregon. Could hear the rumble of thunder across Boise tomorrow as well, tomorrow evening. And then we get a little break there on Tuesday morning, but then the next frontal system starts rushing in Tuesday afternoon. This one might be a little bit windier here as well as we go through Tuesday night for some locations. Then that frontal system rolls through, and still we got the low pressure system off the coastline there. And that's going to pack a punch as we go through Wednesday also. Could be some thunderstorm activity with that. And we've got waves rolling in here. So if we back that up, you can see our storm develop right there. Look at it start to kick off the waves as we go through Monday night into Tuesday. And those waves arrive on the coastline probably at some point on Wednesday morning. So if you miss watching the waves in the coastal areas, Wednesday is a good day. You may also see some interesting stuff out there, rotating showers and whatnot, some lightning strikes. So you might get a double dose of chasing if you do head out to the coast on Wednesday. Yeah, I do have one for Portland as well. I plan on trying to get that plugged into my numbers. I need to find a better way because I've got this Excel sheet that is absolutely ridiculous and it's hard for me to plug in the numbers, but I can't really think of any other way to do it. So I'm going to have to do that eventually. But I do have Portland as well. Yeah, I will definitely live stream more as we get more active for sure. We're probably done with the hot weather, I would say, but we can still get nice at this time of year. So let's take a look at that because admittedly, I have not been looking at the extended forecast that much, but let's go ahead and do that right now. Here's the 18Z artificial intelligence, and you can see what is coming. There's our storm system. That's going to be with us through the end of the week. That rolls through. And then we got the short wave moving through BC, and the track of that one will mean a lot as to what is to come this weekend there. That could be some interesting weather as well. But look at this monster ridge as we go on in through next weekend. How is that going to develop? I mean, that could bring us a spell of nice weather as we go on in through the second half of that weekend. Maybe the early portion of the following week. I mean, look at that. Not bad. And then another short. Look at, my goodness. What is the artificial intelligence on about now? Look at these ridges it's throwing at us. Check my phone, make sure they're not waiting for me at the... Okay. Got to pick someone at the airport up in like 45 minutes or so, just making sure that they didn't get in early. But yeah, look at that ridge. My goodness. So yeah, you can still get nice weather at this time of year. I mean, you're not going to be punching any more 90-degree days, I don't think, but there could be some nice weather. Look at that ridge. My goodness, I can't get enough of that. That's a 5. Yeah, 595, damn. DAM. Not the curse word, damn. Yeah, it's been pretty nice the last few days. I've enjoyed it. I mean, today was very nice again. This is some of the stuff I shot yesterday morning at sunrise up there, Mount Rainier. This is looking away from Mount Rainier. This lenticular was over top of us all day that we were up there. And there was a nice stack over here, as you can see. But yeah, just a glorious sunrise. I mean, it was pretty impressive. Nice colors on the mountain, as you can imagine also. I'll let that run through here. This sneak peek, I'll be putting out a video with this stuff on it eventually at some point, probably here over the next couple weeks or so. But yeah, you can see that it wasn't, I mean, there was hardly a breath of wind. It was so nice up there. It was nice and warm, even at sunset. I'm going to have to zoom in on the video because it looks like I had some visitors here to the bottom right of the time lapse there, but I'll be able to take them out. And then you can see kind of the sun rose and got blocked by the clouds for a little bit, and then it gets above the clouds and you can see the light shine back on Mount Rainier there. So yeah, definitely fun stuff. And then we hiked about 3 miles back in and we saw 3 bears yesterday. 3 bears. We saw a white-tailed fox, and it was pretty interesting. We were watching the fox watching the 2 bears like up on the ridge there, and you could see them a few hundred yards down below. So it was pretty fun watching the fox watch the bear. I'll close those down now for... Yeah, so let's check on that too. Let's see what we've been over precipitation, average of precipitation last 90 days. So yeah, Washington has been hit pretty hard. Western Oregon's been pretty dry as well, but Eastern Oregon's been doing pretty good. I mean, it's been above average. It's just been a lot of thunderstorms over there during the summertime. I mean, it's been pretty impressive. But look at Seattle. You're looking between 25 and 50% of normal. So there's no doubt going to be some trees out here across some of Washington, Western Oregon that have been weakened from drought. No doubt. And the Idaho Panhandle's been pretty dry as well. More of a mixed bag across some of Montana there. And central Idaho has actually been doing pretty darn right good until you get towards southeast, south central Idaho has been below normal there as well. And if we look at temperature, let's look at last 90 days. And yeah, really no exception there as well. Basically, a lot of meteorological summer we're looking at here. If we go from July 1st, that's not what we want to look at. We want to look at this one. Max temperature departure from average. I mean, look at this here. Some areas of Washington just absolutely were. And this is kind of sneaky too. It's pretty consistent because this is well above normal. That's pretty wild. Yeah, Patrick B. Eastern Oregon definitely got lots of monsoon moisture for sure. Yeah, I'm hoping the winds aren't, I mean, I like windstorms and stuff, but the early season ones, man, it can be quite disruptive when these things come rolling in. Let's look at the upper air wind just off the surface and we'll watch the storm develop. So you can see that gale just ripping across. I mean, look at that. We're going to have this almost like a Fujiwara effect for a little bit there, and it just absorbs that Gulf of Alaska low. Look at that. You can see the low develop here, and it just absolutely takes over. Yeah, this is we're probably gonna get some windy locations here. The typical areas: Northwest Washington interior, Vancouver Island, some of the coastal areas, and it may bring some windy periods at times, even in the interior. You could get some gusts up to 40 miles per hour, which can do power outages at this time of year. So you guys are looking at it along with me here. You can see what's coming there. 100-meter wind speeds, and you can see the strongest winds probably just right off the coastline there, but definitely impacting some interior portions there as we go on in through Tuesday. Then another shot of wind maybe for some areas there on Wednesday. It's that low fills. You can see the surface low right on the tip of Vancouver Island there. So it's also going to be ushering in some pretty chilly air aloft. So if I back this up, you can see where we've been the last couple of days. I mean, I was up there at sunrise yesterday at like 8,000 feet, and it was pretty darn right warm. There's our ridge, and you can see the trough. And then you can see this next storm system here, and it just ushers in this cooler segment of air, just blasts in here, and you can kind of see the upper level low hanging out as we go towards the end of the week. And what happens after that is in some question coming up, because models have another ridge building out here that could bring us some nicer weather as we go on in through the early portion of the first half of October. We'll see how that goes, though. 35 mile per hour gust on at Whidbey. Thanks for the update, Jennifer. It's starting to get a little windy. Yeah, that's something I noticed about Mount Rainier. It looked pretty barren. I mean, the glaciers are really kind of, I know they're there, but they looked kind of broken up. I don't know. I'm not an expert, so I probably shouldn't speak about it, but it didn't look great. Let's look at 500 millibars here as well. Boom, spun up right on us. Let's look at the artificial intelligence. In fact, it does go out a bit further. Let's go to 10,000 feet. So there's our ridge. There's our trough. There goes our next system right there, spinning up just south of Queen Charlotte's, Vancouver Island. Upper level low will be with us. And then what happens after that? Shortwave moves through Saturday. But then after that, look at the rebound of the temperatures aloft. Look at that ridge building back up over the area. You might get some nice weather. Again, it's kind of typical. It's not that unheard of. It's kind of what happens here as we go through the fall period until we get to November. Then it seems like it rains forever. But yeah, look at that ridge there. Warm air is all the way up across the Gulf of Alaska. And who knows what's going to happen after that. Same map here. You can really see the difference here between this trough coming for us, just set up over the Pacific Northwest, versus once it moves through and the big ridge comes, and then another monster ridge off in the extended there. They are southeast winds. Yeah, well, coming up the Strait of Georgia, it's going to be kind of the southeast variety. Here, we'll zoom in a little bit here, and I'll show you the 100 meter or 80 meter wind speeds. So this is what we go through tonight. You can see the winds are going to be picking up here across the Strait of Georgia. Some portions of eastern Vancouver Island, you can see some of those winds picking up. Whidbey Island, we already know is gusting there a bit more, maybe up towards Bellingham over the open water. San Juans, if you're across the San Juans tonight, it's going to get a bit windy as we go through tomorrow morning. And as we go through the day on Monday, not too bad, but then Tuesday, we start to tighten that gradient again here, and the southeasterly winds start to pick up really strongly here on Tuesday, northwest interior. And some of that could be coming in towards the Puget Sound as well at times. Let's see if I back this up right there. Look at that Tuesday afternoon. Nice little surge comes up the sound. Strongest wind will stay out over the open water there, but still could clip some of the coast. And then you can kind of see Wednesday, the wind's still going to be with us at times. Yeah, we've been pretty darn right dry here over the last several months across the region. Yeah, I'm still getting some strange updates and stuff because of the hack. I get all my email settings were reset under that account, and with my YouTube page, everything is like reset. The good news is that I'm much more secure now, and I'm getting emails from people for some offers to talk about stuff and whatnot, and I'm not responding to anybody at this time. So I know that some people are probably legit, but I'm not going to take any chances on getting hacked again as of right now. So I'm gonna wait on that front. I've had a few people emailing me stuff, so I don't mean to be rude, but I'm not going to be doing any kind of agreement or anything like that, or after getting hacked, at least for the time being, until I can get everything straightened out. Yeah, big temperature drop coming tomorrow, you guys. Check it out. 24-hour difference tomorrow afternoon here versus what we're dealt with today. You're going to feel it. Yeah, I would take a record cold, snowy year here across the region. I don't know about anybody else, but I would love to see some kind of epic winter happen for the Pacific Northwest. It's always in the realm of possibility. you hear about some of those huge winters, 1916, 1950, 1968, 69, you know, back in the 1800s, 1950, if I didn't mention that one. 1989, I would take that. We've had some pretty good winters, you know, in the 90s and whatnot. And, you know, there's been some decent snow events and stuff like that. But yeah, I'm always down for a big, nasty winter. I say if you're going to have winter, might as well go big. Oh, and also, by the way, I've got Worldwide Weather Watch. This was the backup channel. I've renamed it to Worldwide Weather Watch. I'm not going to do these daily briefings here, but I'm going to do them when there's big events and things that I like to cover anywhere in the world. I will just do them on this page. So if you guys want to remain subscribed to that one, or if you want to check it out, go ahead and log into or subscribe to that one, and I will do that. Like if Hawaii gets a hurricane or there's a big blizzard somewhere around the planet, or hurricane hitting the East Coast, stuff like that, whether in Texas, whether in Russia or Africa or wherever it may be, you know, I'll try to cover it there and try to make it fun and whatnot and go over some unique weather that is happening around the planet. So that is a third channel that I'm running. So hopefully you guys can check out that. Looks like we had some thunderstorms across the Sierra Nevada today as well. Portions of Nevada. You can see the frontal system approaching California. So yeah, this pattern change is coming all the way down the coast of California as well. And here it goes. Let's see where it's raining now. Looks like it's just starting to rain there. Highway 101. Some moderate rain starting to push in towards the Olympics here. Olympic Experimental State Forest. I've not heard that mentioned like that before. Olympic National Park. There's 101. You can see it's raining on Highway 101. It's starting to creep up towards Lake Crescent. Lake Crescent's right there. Port Angeles is over here. Not raining there yet. You can actually see on the Camano Island Doppler radar, you can see that moderate precipitation kind of moving across northwest Washington, Vancouver. You can also do three-dimensional on these as well. Kind of see how you can pretty interesting. You can do this with the satellite imagery also. Been raining for a lot of the day there on Vancouver Island. And yeah, we need to fight. We need to get some politicians involved on this. Getting a Doppler radar on the Oregon coast. My goodness. There you can see the Portland radar picking up some of that. The Langley radar there does a pretty good job for some of Northwest Oregon, but man, the beam starts to get pretty high as you get further south, which is a shame, but it's just how Doppler radars work. Yeah, 96. The winter of 96 was pretty good. I mean, it was pretty extreme here across a lot of the area. A big freezing rain event, huge snowfalls, flooding event. Actually, every winter has fun events that happen somewhere in the state. I mean, and usually for most areas, you get something at some point. We are right in the mid-latitude cyclone track here in the Pacific Northwest. But yeah, there goes our storm. It's coming. You can kind of see it rounding this ridge out here north of the Hawaiian Islands. There's the Gulf of Alaska trough. And as this storm develops, this is the one that's going to just kind of, it's going to eat that one. They're going to merge together, and then it's going to be spinning right off our coastline here, and it's going to be some serious eye candy as we go over the next few days as well. Looks like almost 300 people in the chat. Just checking my phone to make sure that my wife and daughter have not landed at SeaTac yet. "10-foot snowdrifts in Bellingham, 1996. Anybody in here remember the winter of 89, February 1989? The last true great Arctic blast to hit the Pacific Northwest? Yeah, it is pretty fun getting snowed in. I remember that ice storm in 96, man. The trees out in front of our house were just bent over so bad they were kind of laying in the street and stuff. It was just wild. My anemometer on my Davis station on my roof actually froze solid. I remember trying to throw snowballs at it and hitting it to try to break the ice off. Yeah, the winter 2008, that was pretty good, especially for places like Seattle. That was a pretty epic winter. Not gonna lie. Best storm ever in 89. Well, it depends on where you are because a lot. Now, the general public doesn't like it sometimes when I say this, but a lot of the forecasts, you have to know where you live. You might be living in a place that's under a high wind warning, but you are kind of in a depression and you've got ridges on both sides and you're in between two hills and you've got trees around you and you're a bit sheltered from the wind. So you're not really getting the wind that has been forecast for your area. It's important to know that. In some places have really big wind exposures and you're on top of a hill or on top of a ridge or you're in a certain location that's favorable for wind and you're getting winds that might be a little bit higher than what is forecast. So it's very important to know where you live. You have to understand where you live. And the more you know about where you live and exactly where you are and what kind of climate you live in, the better you are going to understand that and the more prepared for any kind of forecast you are going to be. Because I know there are people, I live in Normandy Park and there are people in Normandy Park that are more sheltered from wind than others. And that goes for any place in the Pacific Northwest. There's huge terrain features all over the place. You really have to know where your location is because that's just the way it is. Even in the coastal ranges here on the Washington, Oregon coast, if you're one of those east-west valleys, sometimes you don't get that much wind and you're hearing about this huge windstorm coming and the coast is blowing at 80 miles an hour and you're getting 30 miles an hour and it's not that big of a deal where you live. That's because you're kind of in a wind sheltered area. That just means surrounding terrain around you is getting big winds and there could be damage on the coast or you could be getting damage in the exposed areas in the Willamette Valley and the Puget Sound and all kinds of stuff like that. So it's really, I know it's a tough thing, but at the same time, a meteorologist is not going to be able to just tell you on the spot what you're going to get for any exact individual location unless they've really studied that area and you know exactly where you live and what kind of things you're subject to. Yeah, Mike, yeah, that's a good example. The Okanagan River Valley there. You're in this north-south river valley, and if you're tucked away back in one of the little valleys there, or if you're in a depression with ridges, your wind readings are gonna be all over the place because up and down the valley, you get a big Arctic outbreak and it's gusting 50 miles per hour out of the north, and there's blowing snow. And you could be just a couple miles away and you're getting much less wind because you are in a sheltered area. You're still getting the cold air and you're probably getting snow and stuff like that. And then you're going to be subject to those impacts when you move out and away from your house and you're trying to drive around, but you're not getting the huge 50, 60 mile per hour winds. And that goes with any location here in the Pacific Northwest. Yeah, the February 1989 storm was just one of the highlights of my weather life. I mean, just an absolutely vicious Arctic blast visited the Pacific Northwest. If you guys weren't around for that, I lived in South Seattle and we were out on that night where it got down to 7 degrees. That's the last time it got below 10 degrees at SeaTac. And that, what is that? I mean, my gosh, it's like what? 11, that's 36 years now. And there was 5 foot snow drifts in some areas. Like, it was just purely amazing. It was just an amazing storm. And it was, I wish something like that would happen again. It would probably cause utter chaos in the region. I can't even imagine what would happen, but it shut things down pretty good. But Seattle was a pretty noticeably smaller place back then, and there was no social media as well, so you probably didn't hear about a lot of what was going on. But yeah, this is the current picture here. Here's our next storm gearing up out here. It's going to spin up right off our coastline or south of the Queen Charlottes and Haida Gwaii there, and it's going to make some eye candy off the coastline and bring multiple rounds of precipitation into the area. Shout out to the nearest city to you. Sorry, didn't mean to yell there. Naval Hospital in Bremerton 2015. We had that windstorm. 68, 69. I wish I was alive for that storm too. Just looking back at the records and how much snow fell at Seattle during that time period in December 1968 was just ridiculous. Yeah, so the Bay Area is supposed to get a little bit of precipitation. In fact, let's do that real quick. Let's go ahead and go to, I want to see what the latest model is actually showing for California here. We'll go to precipitation and we'll go to, it's really hit and miss. Some of the coastal areas, it does show some better amounts, but still not that much. Much bigger amounts if you get north of the Bay Area, but it does show some a little bit further south. Central Coast does pick up some precipitation, and this is generally as you go through tomorrow morning, the first of that falls, and you get a little bit more, it looks like, there on Tuesday as well. Not a lot of the Sacramento Valley, but look at this. We get the Sacramento, the convergence zone here, Northern Sacramento Valley, the Shasta County convergence zone. Sorry, I almost forgot about it there. But it looks like that's going to be coming into play here as well. You can get some lightning strikes and some very heavy rainfall, some gusty winds with that. That looks like it's coming in here on the day Monday and Monday night. And we're going to get a 1-2 punch across portions of California there as well. '68 and '69 made tunnels for cars to drive through the snowdrifts on the flats above Omak. That is incredible. That is amazing, man. I hope I see another winter like that before I pass on. Well, I'll show you that. Somebody's mentioning why will the storm weaken? Well, basically what's going on there is, if I go to surface pressure, what's going to happen here is this storm is it's going to mature out over the open water there. And once you see it bottom out there about 977, it's about on the day Tuesday. It probably is a peak mature cyclone about 11 a.m. on Tuesday morning. And then it starts to fill. It's getting weaker. But it's still going to be a wave generator. It's still going to bring multiple rounds of precipitation, could bring some thunderstorms, and hopefully it helps put out some of the fires out there. But it will be weakening. You see how it really just kind of goes away there by the time you get towards Thursday morning. I mean, it goes from this beast, this 977 beast, and then you go 24 hours, 48 hours. It just totally gets absorbed there. And then we're going to have the system kind of move through British Columbia, and then another ridge might build in as we go on in through the following week. We'll see if we're going to get any kind of offshore winds or what's going to happen with that. I don't want to pay too much attention to that just yet, but you can kind of see some ridging going on out here. I mean, look at that ridge. What in the world? That would be kind of interesting there. Yeah, I feel sorry if you didn't get to see the February 1989 winter. That was amazing. December 1990 was pretty flipping crazy too. Checking out some of the chat here. Mark Stewart still listening in. Very nice. $2 Chuck. Thanks for the generosity. So yeah, always remember in these early season storms, you see these winds starting to gust up over 50. You might want to take notice. Leaves on those trees. Trees been weakened by drought. Rot occurs during the summertime. It could have been damaged in a windstorm 1, 2, 3 years ago. And frankly, when I go to look at tree damage with my drone, a lot of trees that get knocked down have previous rot. And sometimes it is not easy to see that it has been damaged previously. Look at this gust on the central Oregon coast on the high resolution rapid refresh as we go through Tuesday early afternoon. 66. You get some, I mean, it shows Quileute at 60 miles per hour. When does that happen? Same thing, right about the noon hour there on Tuesday. We'll see if that comes into fruition there. And Seattle gets skipped there, but there's some stronger winds through the interior of the southwest portion of Washington State, and some of the Willamette Valley showing up pretty windy there also. Thanks for the kind words, $2 Chuck. Generosity, you guys keep the channel going. Thank you very much. But yeah, I wanted to try to make these live streams a little bit more consistent. And of course, when we get active, I will be live streaming. If we go out chasing on Wednesday, I may just live stream and we'll go look at some waves and some showers and whatnot. And you guys can just kind of ride along and look at the scenery and stuff. But yeah, I'll try to make this a little bit more consistent. I'll be talking about some more winter stuff here over the next couple of weeks as well, working on another video. I plugged in a bunch of different numbers here. We'll take a look at what may happen this winter and what kind of signals we are looking at. And again, a reminder, Worldwide Weather Watch is back up and running. I will be doing that maybe like once a week, something like that, or when big weather events elsewhere on the planet do occur, Hawaii, Alaska, Russia, Japan, wherever, East Coast, Tornado Alley, Europe, wherever there's fun weather, some Southern Hemisphere, anywhere on the planet, I'll be looking into doing that more. Drought-stressed trees are also weakened structurally from lack of water in their cellular structures, very brittle. That's why those big branches drop at the bottom of the really big trees. Yeah, it's interesting. Nice. Vista House storm. Yeah, that was crazy. I should have been live streaming from the start up there. I got thrown down so hard when that started. I mean, I'm fairly athletic, and I'm I weigh almost 200 pounds. I'm 6'2", and I'm kind of a big guy. And I thought I would be able to stand up to that 95, 100 mile per hour gust. And nope, it threw me down. And I think I did like 2 cartwheels down the stairs. And I thought that I had broken my leg at first. I had scratches on my back and my hip. It was a pretty bad fall, and nobody caught it on camera. I was hoping that somebody caught it on camera. I had several friends up there, but nobody's cameras were running because it was right at the beginning as we got there. So I spent most of the rest of the time in the car because I was thoroughly thrashed. That was a pretty big beating I took. I'll be better prepared next time. I also have an anemometer that is much better. I have heavy duty RAM mounts. I have 5 of them that I attach to the top of the Tesla now, and that sucker isn't going anywhere. So wherever I take the Tesla and the wind reading, the anemometer should be really good and robust. I've tested it. I've driven into a 40 mile per hour wind at 60 miles per hour. So I've gotten readings up over 100 miles per hour on the anemometer, and the thing wasn't even budging. So I should be good to go as we go through these winter months. If I go to the Columbia River Gorge, coastal areas, wherever, Okanagan River Valley, Fraser River, wherever I go, I should be good to go coming up here. So that should be fun. So that should make for some fun live streams as well. Vista House in the Gorge, correct. Yes, that was, what was that, a year and a half ago now? Almost 2 years ago? Yeah, you got to remember that a 50 mile per hour wind is pretty vicious and pretty strong. And if you were to double that wind speed to 100 miles per hour, 100 mile per hour wind is 4 times as strong as a 50 mile per hour wind. And I found out firsthand that effect. Thanks, Bruce Cruz. Thanks for the generosity. Yeah, there was like over 2,000 people watching in that live stream. The tsunami live stream had like close to 4,000 people in the live stream at one time with that one. The Enumclaw, the big bomb cyclone out over the ocean there, had the huge east winds. We had close to 4,000 people, or 3,500 people, something like that in the live stream at one point too. So that was pretty fun. I'm glad a lot of people like to tune in. Hopefully it's fun for everybody. Try to stay safe, but just out there reporting the weather. Yeah, the Vista House, the car was rocking. It also tore the gas cap door off the car. We also damaged the sunroof. I don't know if that was wind related or not, but it was howling. And yeah, if you get in the right spot up there, it feels like your car is going to kind of get lifted. It's pretty crazy. You have to make sure your trunk is attached properly. You don't want to be trying to open doors when you're in that kind of a big wind. It can easily rip your door open and damage your car and all kinds of crazy stuff. Pressure force calculation. So yeah, it's legitimately 4 times as strong. Same thing with like a 10 mile per hour wind versus 20 miles per hour is 4 times as strong. Yeah, I don't know if it was open previously or whatnot, but it like knocked it off and I had to like go fetch it up against the rock wall there. You can find some shelter up there. And if you just drive up the road a little bit, like, a couple hundred yards, you can get out of the huge winds. So you can get some relief up there. But yeah, you do have to be careful out there. The bomb cyclone is how I found your channel. Yeah, nice to hear. All right, well, I need to get going here. I'm going to go pick up the family from the airport, and we'll be doing this I may be live streaming here either Tuesday or Wednesday. If I go out there and chase the waves, storms, thunderstorm or whatnot, I will be probably live streaming as I do that. I will definitely get going with the live streaming here as we get into the more active weather. So hopefully you guys are enjoying the channel. I'll do my normal briefing tomorrow as usual, and I'm going to go ahead and sign off here, and hope you guys are having a good rest of your night. And always park into the wind. Yes. Good advice.